Welcome back to another wonderful episode at the Evolving the Single Parent Nation podcast. Today we have a very special guest, someone who I personally know, and I'm excited to welcome her to this incredible show, Miss Mary Locke. Mary is a licensed professional counselor, and she's a program manager of a leading substance addiction facility with expertise in mental health, individual and family counseling, couples therapy, and substance addiction. Mary brings years of experience and deep compassion to her work. Her true passion is empowering others, especially women. Whether you're navigating through anxiety, trauma, depression, postpartum challenges, PTSD, or personality disorders, Mary is dedicated to helping you discover peace, balance, and purpose in your life. She joins us today to share her insights, wisdom, and practical tools for creating a healthier mindset and life. You can follow her journey and get inspired on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok at Miss Mary the Therapist. And if you're interested in getting connected with her directly, her email is mzmarythe therapist@gmail.com. Welcome, Mary. How are you?
Thank you so much. I am great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you for joining us. I know
Yes,
you have lots of experience and practical tools you want to share with us, as
absolutely.
this episode will be post for Mental Health Month. So I'm looking forward to jumping into the questions so we can help our audience.
Yes,
When it
ma'am.
comes to personal journey and motivation, what's the biggest misconception people have about therapy and mental health?
That they are separate. It's important to know, you can have forms of mental health, but it's important to know that being a part of therapy, going to therapy, talking to a therapist is what's going to help you with those areas of mental health. A lot of people think they can do it on their own, and oftentimes some people can, depending on their levels of mental health or their concerns. But it is very advisable to understand that mental health and therapy go hand in hand. You want to combine the two in order to become more effective in being the better you, whatever that may be.
So true. So I do have, when you say it depends, some people try to do it themselves, and some people, based on the extensive of your situation, you need a
Right.
therapist. So I do have a friend, he thought of committing suicide. And I'm
Mm,
like, I can't help you. I can be the shoulder to lean on, I can listen, I can
right.
motivate you, inspire you, but I can't help you.
Right.
You need professional help. So I do agree
Hmm.
with you.
Yes, absolutely. I hope he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay.
Okay.
Um, when it comes to helping people, right? When you help to heal people every day, what's something you had personally healed from that changed the way you currently practice?
A large area that I personally had to heal from is not having the knowledge, especially as I got into adulthood, there was a lot of areas that about myself, was unaware of or unsure of. Not having the knowledge of what mental health looks like was an issue for me only because I was enduring some of those things. Because even as a therapist, we have, real life issues that happen to us as well. Therapists have mental health
Mhm.
disorders as well. And not knowing that that's some of the things I was going through was very challenging for me. However, once I entered college, went through the education, got into my profession, I understood that a lot of that related to me as well. And it was very beneficial to realize,
Mhm.
because a lot of us think it's just me. You think it's only you going through those
Yeah.
things. Once you talk to others and you relate to others and you get the education, which is what I did, then you're able to see, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. There's just things going on with me that I need to better understand. And once I began to understand that, then I began to empower myself, which is one of the reasons why I enjoy empowering others.
Amazing. Was there like a defining moment in your life that made you realize you wanted to dedicate yourself to this work?
There actually was, and it's actually a pretty interesting story. A lot of people find it hard to believe. As I was searching simply for work, I was living in Savannah, Georgia at that time. Simply searching for work, trying to find, a career or what I wanted to do with my life. I decided to become a correctional officer, just kind of to pay bills until I figured out what it is I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Being a correctional officer, I ended up working in that prison. It was an all-male prison for 11 years. That was not my intentions. My intentions was to temporarily do something to get me from point A to point B until I figured out what I wanted to do in my life. However, while I was working as a correctional officer, the institution paid for me to get my associate's and my bachelor's degree. So I went forward with that, and I got both my associate's and bachelor's degrees in criminal justice, thinking I wanted to go in the realm of law enforcement. However, as I was continuing my journey as a correctional officer, I began to see and talk to a lot of the individuals that were incarcerated in those facilities, a lot of
Mhm.
mental health. And this is when I first began to understand the levels of mental health and how mental health can affect others, the things that I saw, the individuals that I talked to. It was very empowering, and I could not change their sentencing, obviously, but I was able to be, a voice, a shoulder, someone to hear, understand, to learn, and I realized that that fed something within my own spirit to simply be able to help and hear and listen and advise and guide, even individuals who were in there for their life still needed someone to talk to. So I realized then that this is something I enjoyed, which is helping others, guiding others, advising others, simply listening. And I then chose to exit out of the world of correctional officer, and I got my master's degree in communications because I knew then that I wanted to learn to better effectively communicate, learn to actively hear and listen, and then find the tools so that I can teach others in empowering themselves and growing beyond those situations. So had I not have been a correctional officer, I probably would not be a therapist.
Yeah, the journey makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So you touched on the fact that, even though you're a mental health therapist, you yourself needed, therapy.
Yeah.
So a lot of therapists, they focus on healing others, but how do you take care of your own mental health?
Yeah. So, two-part answer to that question. The first part is we as therapists have to see a therapist. A lot of people
Mhm.
don't know that. It is supposed to be a factor of our licensing for us to see a therapist because naturally we are human. Naturally, we
Mhm.
have things going on in our lives as well. And we don't want our personal lives to transfer into our clients and dealing with what we're doing, any situations our clients may be having. So we're required to see a therapist regularly, which I do. And it allows me to, again, just kind of release, talk, vent, not be in the therapist seat, take that hat off for a while and be in
Mhm.
client seat where I can be vulnerable, be open, share, and receive, suggestions and information that may benefit me in my personal life. Part two of that is I work out. That's my, huge part of my own self-care is I work out. Um,
Mhm.
at least 6 days a week and at least 20 to 30 minutes a day. Jogging being my favorite form of working out. But at the end of my day, I make sure that I work out in order to release that energy, decompress myself, and get myself geared back up for my next day or my work week. It is a part of my makeup is working out.
Amazing. So I love
Mhm.
working out. I will work out twice a day.
Yes, yes.
Some,
It does. It is a
yeah.
great release. It releases endorphins that makes us feel great and amazing. And I urge anyone to do, at least 20 or 30 minutes a day. And I like to tell, my clients, especially the younger ones, hey, we're scrolling, on TikTok and Facebook in 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Surely we can carve out 20 minutes for our own mental health, meaning get some exercise, take a walk, get outside in the sun, get some nature. It's very important. Therapy is a part of our mental, emotional, and physical health. A lot of people forget about the physical. So working out is a part of that physical.
Amazing. Now, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice about mental health and resilience, what would that be?
That would be ask for help. Ask for help.
Mhm.
Ask questions. I did not do that. I did not think that I had all the answers, but I did not realize that I could turn to others to get the answers. Um, it just wasn't something I practiced in my younger years. I simply just did things. I just went for it. I just, took those chances. I didn't
Mhm.
ask for help. I didn't seek guidance or advice. And so I definitely would suggest that to my younger self and any young ears that's listening right now to ask for help. It's out there. It's there to be had. And if you knock on one door and that person doesn't help you, knock on another one. But definitely ask for help.
Yeah, it's such a huge relief when you ask for help.
Hmm.
And you know, sometimes when you ask for help, you'll be amazed how much more you actually get.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
It's knowledge out there to be had, and it's not saying that you have a small amount of knowledge. It's just allowing you to learn more. It may change your direction, or it may not. It still is allowing you to be educated and get more information.
Yeah. So when it
Hmm.
comes to empowerment and mental toughness, what does true self-empowerment looks like to you?
I think true self empowerment looks like whatever makes your that's my motto. Doing whatever makes your heart smile. Oftentimes in this world that we're in, we often seek to make others happy, make others comfortable, make sure others are okay, check in with others, receive the
Mhm.
validation from others. It really needs to come from within. If we allow our happiness to come from within, then we can give more to others. Because we've then filled ourselves with what we are happy about, what we're positive about. We've given ourselves that confidence and that value. You seek it from others, and those others are not there when you need them one day. And then where does that lead you? However, if you look within yourself, you're able to feed yourself every day, do what makes your heart smile. And as long as you're doing that, you will always end up with a positive end of your day versus seeking that from someone else. So always do whatever it is that makes your heart smile. And that could be reading a book, that could be watching your favorite movie, calling a friend, going for a walk. If it makes your heart smile, do that. Do more of that.
Amazing. Now, I was
Hmm.
going to ask you, is it something self-empowerment, is it something that we're born with, or is it something that we develop? Because I feel like it's a lifetime commitment and you just have to wake up and decide that today I'm going to be happy.
I think it's both. I think it's something that we are born with, but we don't realize we have it.
Hmm.
It's a quality within us that has to be awakened, and it's either awakened by individuals showing and sharing it to you in your early years. In our early years of development, they're so important. Those formative years. However, if we're not aware that that's in there, then of course it's going to lay dormant for a while. But maybe an individual grows up with really motivating parents, really encouraging parents. Those parents is now awakening that part of us that allows us to be empowered and have that confidence and grow up to be confident individuals. However, even if you grew up without the support of family, even if you grew up and you never knew that you had that within you, you could still decide, hey, I want better for me. And you've learned how to do that through therapy, through friends, through different networks that helps you to grow that part of you. So I think it's both. I think it's born in us, but it may lay dormant for a while until we realize that it's there and how powerful it is. Or we can grow up and then decide, hey, you know what? I want to make these changes towards this energy. I feel it inside of me. I don't know what it is, but I want to learn what it is, and I want to learn how to increase this feeling and reduce any possible negative or other feelings that you might have. So to answer your question, I definitely think it's both.
Yeah, I think so too. And it wasn't until recently, probably late last year, I realized it was. And you mentioned a word awakening. So I'm huge into personal development. I'll spend thousands of dollars investing in myself. And I've
Wow.
done stuff as far as Bob Proctor, which is basically learn about the mind, the universal laws. I've been to different motivational events, mind, body, soul events all over the world.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's like you were born with it, but the
Yes.
awakening is recognizing that you are powerful and you have it within you.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
just developing it. But to develop it, it's a full-time commitment to wake up every day and say, I'm going to commit to myself.
Mhm. Choose you.
Yeah.
I choose me every day. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good for you, though. I love that.
Yeah. What's
Mhm.
one common mindset block that keeps people stuck in their cycle or self-doubt?
A common mindset block is defensive. A lot of people are very defensive. They don't realize that they're coming across as defensive because it's become a default reaction that a lot of people have. And what I mean by that is um, if someone's trying to help you, if someone's trying to teach you, if someone's trying to encourage you, because you may be so used to being in your one mindset, that's how you've always been, which is something that a lot of people put themselves in a box because they say, I've always been that way. You become defensive. You know, you don't want to hear, you don't want to learn, you don't want to adapt, you're not open. You simply become naturally defensive and you ignore or reject or resist any type of help. This is definitely unhealthy for our spirits and our energy because how else are you going to learn if you are not open? The defensiveness comes, like I said, automatically as a default because a lot of people have been struggling for years. They've been in survival mode for years. They've been trying to figure out how to simply get from point A to B. There's mothers, there's fathers, there's young parents out there who have been trying to figure out, I simply just need to get my bills paid. I just need to get, this taken care of. And it makes us defensive because we're feeling like I've been doing this for so long. It's been working all of this time. And it's like, well, has it actually been working? Have you tried to just kind of be open? Being defensive prevents us from being open. Being defensive prevents us from learning other avenues that could actually help, the very situation that we are struggling with. So if a lot of us were less defensive, a little more open, a little more aware that we can get that help somewhere else, I think that it would make a lot of life changes around the world.
Amazing. Yeah. I
Hmm.
tell people, like my friend that I mentioned earlier, I'm like, it's the story you're telling yourself every day. You keep recycling the same old story,
Yes,
and
right.
clearly
Yes.
it's
Hmm.
not serving you.
It's not working for you. And it's okay to own that and admit that. Oftentimes we just stay into this little, like I said, this little bubble that we live in. And that bubble is safe because you're familiar with that bubble, but it may not be healthy. It may not be the best thing for you. And it definitely may prevent you from growing because you're not able to come outside of that bubble, but you're defensive of that bubble because it's mine. I know this bubble. And therefore, in order for you to be able to come outside, like you're saying about your friend, you've got to challenge yourself to try something different, try something new.
Yeah, it's true. When I was younger, I used to think not enough, not just I wasn't enough, I didn't have enough, and that was
Mm,
my excuse to do something.
hmm.
And it's like I went from one extreme where, I did stuff, but I went from one extreme of not enough to now I'm like, I would say I'm fearless, not borderline fearless. I haven't gotten
Hmm.
there yet.
Hmm.
But and you mentioned earlier not asking for help. That was something, because growing up independence was
Yeah.
something that my parents drilled into me.
Yeah.
And I started out early, like at 18,
Mm,
at my own place. I was going to college. I was forced to grow up and be
right.
independent.
Hmm.
And so asking for help was nothing that I saw. And now I'm like asking for help. Like I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Even before a meeting,
Absolutely.
I'm starting my charity foundation, and I have a mentor that I met before I met here, and I'm
Hmm.
like, I need all the information I need to get because I don't
Yes.
know, and it's okay to say I don't know.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It is
and I
very good
need
to say,
help.
I don't know, and I
Yeah,
need help. That's probably one of the best tools that you can have for yourself. If I'm not okay, I need some help, and it's okay to need some help.
yeah, amazing.
Hmm.
So many people they struggle with setting boundaries. Healthy, I like to say healthy boundaries.
Healthy boundaries.
Yeah, what's your personal approach to creating and maintaining healthy boundaries?
I am very selfish, um, in a healthy way. I have no qualms in putting myself first. I have no qualms in making sure I'm okay first. I learned that again in life through my own therapy. Creating those boundaries makes me happy. And please don't misunderstand. Boundaries are difficult for some people because sometimes those boundaries mean you're cutting off family, you're cutting off friends, you're cutting off coworkers, you're cutting off people that mean a lot to you. However, if we and we all know if we put all our energy elsewhere, what do we have left for ourselves? As they say, if you pour from an empty cup, you're going to end up with the one that doesn't have anything to drink for yourself because you have fed everyone else. I am very selfish in recognizing that I have to take that time for me. I have to put aside what I need for my energy, for, my vibe to be positive, because I'm a very positive person. If I feel that that's being, taken or taken for granted by others, I am able to pause and step back, even at the risk of hurting family members. And this is something that has occurred. However, if I know that I'm coming from a good place in my heart and my soul, I'm okay with setting that boundary. You mentioned earlier healthy boundaries. I understand that some individuals can have unhealthy boundaries, and that's something that we have to be very mindful of. Is your boundary cruel? Is it facetious? Is it messy? Is it petty? What is the goal for that boundary? Why are you setting that boundary? If you know that you're coming from a good space, which I do, and you're coming from a healthy place, which I do, and I know that this is going to benefit me as far as keeping my mental and emotional, my physical health in a healthy space, I am very confident in saying no. One of the smallest and most powerful words in the dictionary is simply saying no. No, I can't go. No, I'm not available. No, I will not attend. No, I can't, be a part of that. And I am okay with that in my mental, because I know that it came from a good space. No could just mean I want to go home and rest. You know, one thing
Mhm.
about boundaries, you don't have to explain your boundary.
Yeah,
You don't have to explain your boundary. And
unapologetic.
unapologetically support your own boundary. And that's a misconception a lot of people have, is if I give a boundary, I have to explain. Well, because, well, see,
Or
I'm gonna,
apologize. Yeah.
or apologize. You don't. Your boundary is your self-care. And it's important to know that you don't have to explain it. You simply have to have it for you. You'll be better because of it. Trust me, you will.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So when it comes to, and Mary has been a single parent, so she knows she
Yes.
knows the ins and out of being a single parent. If a single parent is feeling completely lost, because there's so
Hmm.
much pressure. There's the physical pressure, the mental pressure, the financial pressure as a single parent, and they feel completely lost
Hmm.
in their current situation. What's the first practical step you think they should take towards self-discovery?
Okay, I think that not only as a single parent, I think any individual that's feeling lost in their self discovery, very simple coping skill: create yourself a plan, stop, pause, write things down to figure out what's going on in your world. Where do you want things to be? Oftentimes, we keep everything in our mental, and it's just swirling. There's so much going on up there. You're a single parent, you are, a coworker, you are a relative, you're a friend. You're trying to keep all of what you have going on in your mind. Okay, that obviously is going to cause, disorganization, mental discomfort, stress, depression, anxiety. Stop, write it down. Literally ask yourself, what am I doing? Have what I call internal dialogue. Ask yourself, what am I doing? What is it that I want? And how do I get there? Because you now have to take control of the wheel towards your journey. This is your personal journey. And as a single parent, your journey is going to naturally affect your children, naturally affect what they do, where they are, where they go, what they see. They're going to aspire to link to who you are. So, me, as a therapist, I have 3 adult sons. One of my adult sons is very into therapy as well, because they're going to soak in what they see from me. So, as a single parent of young men, which is a different challenge all within itself, I have to remember to make sure that I'm in a healthy space, to make sure I have goals, to make sure even on my bad days, I'm still striving, because they're looking at me even as young adult men. That matters to me. So I would
Mhm.
I would advise any young single mom, stop, pause your life, write it down, and figure out what you're doing and how you're going to get there. Create short-term goals. They are magical, because in short-term goals, we get into this space where we still feel like we're accomplishing something, versus being in a space where I'm not doing anything and I'm not happy where I am and this is making me stressful. Okay, let's do something about it. Write it down, create your plan, start checking things off. Just checking things off the list is going to naturally motivate you to do more. So, to answer your question, start with making a list on what you want to do with your life and how do you get there.
Yeah, amazing. So you touched on some really good points. Early on in my episodes, when I started this podcast, I have plenty of episodes on goal setting,
Hmm.
visualization, Manifestation. If you have not listened to them, make sure you go check it out. But what she's saying is just basically asking yourself a simple question: what do you want?
Mhm.
Right? So you're not in the place you want to be, but what do you want? And just taking an
Right.
inventory of your mind and where you are and just going through it. And I think she's kind of like saying it's almost like you're journaling, you
Mhm.
know?
Yes.
So and the conversations with yourself, I have those conversations every day. Like, okay, you don't feel like working out, you've been sleeping off,
Right.
but guess what? You're gonna
Yeah.
feel so good after.
Yes, the internal dialogue is very powerful because what we tell ourselves matters so much. So you be careful with what you tell yourself. And you want to have that positive internal dialogue to yourself and have a full conversation with yourself because who better knows you than you?
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely be transparent with yourself, reflect on what you need, but don't be unrealistic. It's called a journey for a reason. You're not going to
Mhm.
get there immediately. Be patient with your journey, but do something. Do
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Amazing. How does our childhood shape our ability to feel empowered as adults? And how can we rewrite those early narratives?
Oh, I like that question. Oftentimes, we as adults, we kind of give ourselves permission to not try. And what I mean by that is, a lot of individuals say, well, that's how my dad always was, so that's just how I'm going to be. That's how my mom was, so that's how I'm going to be. While it is factual that our environment affects, what we learn during our formative years, while it is very factual that we soak in the things that we see in our environment, while our parents do hold a lot of weight to the things that we choose to do and we choose not to do in our life, we still as adults have the ability to choose our own path. So we cripple ourselves, we
Mm-hmm.
paralyze ourselves by saying, that's just how my family was. That's just how my father always was. That's how my mom was. I didn't have a father in my life. And embracing all of the negative that you can pull from your childhood and bringing that into your adulthood and allowing that to prevent you from discovering who you are outside of these factors. We have permission to say that's how my dad was, but that's not how I want to be. That's how my mom was. I see my mom do that a lot. I didn't like that. So I don't want to be that. So I want to be the opposite of my mom. So you have the permission to give yourself to either try and grow away from whatever stigma you might have seen in your family when you were growing up, or try to grow more towards that. Maybe your dad was somebody that you aspire to be like. Maybe he turned out to be the type of man you want to be, or see, or even woman who looks up to her father. Same for moms. Then definitely embrace that. Definitely allow that to be a part of your journey. However, if it was areas that were not effective, not healthy, perhaps abusive and hurtful, we want to, as they say, break that cycle and make that choice to be different. And I think that's the misconception. You can choose to be different from what you saw in your environment growing up.
Amazing. I love that. When it comes to mental health in the modern world, I feel like
Mhm.
mental health always existed, but I think it's deteriorating because of this new world, especially with social media and also, the generational expectations, like family expectations as well as societal expectations. It can bring a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
You have to get married by a certain age, have children by a certain age, have a career or a certain kind of career. It's a
Yeah,
lot of pressure that we have to deal with as a child,
right.
as adults, and it's causing mental health. When it comes to social media, especially, what has made self-care trendy? Like, do you think it's actually helping people or hurting people? Or is it just like another avenue to escape or daily life?
So I think that it is, I think it's both, actually, all three. So with this generation, believe it or not, therapy has become trending. With this upcoming generation, this younger age group, they are seeking therapy. They feel that you're not in if you don't have a therapist. Believe it or not, I have a lot of young clients who have joined the virtual world of therapy, and they're getting younger, it seems like. So I believe that the social media is encouraging the therapy. I believe they're beginning to see there are people I can talk to and ask for help. Yes, online can be risky as with anything else. Social media can be a little, scary out there if you're not sure who to follow or who you're listening to. However, to answer your question, I think that the trend is now therapy is something we should embrace. A lot of young people are not getting married. They're not having children. They're choosing their careers. They're choosing to travel. I think that this younger generation is simply different than they were, say, 30, 40 years ago, because they are now wanting to seek the help. They're now wanting to wait on having children. I think I would rather, travel. And I embrace that for them. I do think social media has helped, with that thought process. I think social media can also hinder because there's a lot of people on social media who are not healthy and who do not mean well. So of course, there's always that risk either way that you go, because such as us today, this is healthy social media. And we, hope that the right, eyes and ears are able to watch your podcast and be able to embrace what they learned today. This is when social media is working. So we have to be very mindful with social media as we are with anything else. It can be a very powerful tool, or it can also be something that we have risks, that comes with that. And you just have to be mindful with either direction that you're going. I, for one, am an enforcer of obviously therapy and social media. And I say that because since COVID, a lot of my clients have been virtual.
Mm-hmm.
This was discovered via social media with the help of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of unfortunate situations that occurred during the pandemic. Of course, we learned a lot, we lost a lot, we hurt, we became more aware. However, online therapy it increased greatly. And this, again, I believe, is a benefit of social media and the trends that started going out, and more people began to seek that online therapy. Even today, my largest clientele is virtual therapy. So I do
Mm-hmm.
definitely think that there is a tool in therapy as long as it's in the right hands and being used the right way, because we don't know who's watching. So we want to be careful what we say, but then they can't hear us if we don't say something. So we know that a lot of young ears are on social media. So let's try to put the right things out there for them so that those ears can find the healthy trends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. And so you mentioned something that this generation is changing, right? And I think and I've said it myself this year too, that I'm breaking a lot of generational expectation and societal
Okay.
expectations
Mm-hmm.
with my current goals and future goals. And I think it's just us realizing that tradition or cultural belief system, not
Mm-hmm.
because it's something we grew up seeing, mean it's the right thing or the best thing. I think it's we're becoming smarter, wiser, and just realizing, hey, where I'm resistant
Yeah.
towards a lot of my cultural, generational expectations. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to do this,
Right.
you know?
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
there's this whole not accepting it. And it's like, okay, it's okay if you don't accept me. I accept myself.
Exactly, right. That
Yeah.
there is boundaries and coping skills all day. That's exactly what that looks like. And the education is out there to allow us not to dismiss our cultures or where we may have come from, but simply, like you just said, to learn more, to realize there's terminology out here for some of the things that we've been dealing with. There's coping skills, there's therapeutic tools for some of the things that we've been dealing with, but our culture prevents us from exploring it because we want to be loyal to our culture, of course. However, now these individuals are allowing themselves to expand and learn and grow while still embracing their culture.
Amazing. One quick question though, why do you think the virtual space in therapy is increasing or larger? I'm thinking that because they feel scared, but they're open, and they feel like the online is almost like a security thing
Yeah,
versus going to a physical therapy. What do you
yeah.
think?
I think it creates a safe space because majority of the clients are at home, in the comfort of their homes. I think that safe space is a huge piece of why a lot of individuals have joined the online virtual world of therapy. It not only that, it's convenience, because a lot of people they may be at work. They may only be able to do some, therapy appointments on their lunch breaks. So now we have to try and make an exception to those who, I have 30 minutes, I need to talk to a therapist. You don't have time to leave work, drive across town, sit in the office, wait for your appointment, talk to your therapist, get back in the car, drive across town, get to work. So the convenience of it as well, because it's an app now. Therapy
Mhm.
is in an app. And I think having your therapist, because keep in mind, in therapy, texting is now a format of therapy.
Mm.
So now not only are we talking virtually, video, we're also talking via phone. Some individuals don't want the video, they just want the phone. Now, again, as I mentioned, the younger generation, we've included texting as a form of therapy. So now you're texting your therapist during the times that you may be going through a situation at school or at home, and this is the only way that you can get that help, you text your therapist. So I think that the convenience, definitely, and just a safe space, knowing it's just you and your therapist that's there, and knowing that you can call on your therapist anytime that you
Yeah.
need to, right? So it's allowing also the availability, because now you can see your therapist in the evenings, you can see your therapist on the weekends. Before, that was not as well known. So again, I do, kind of lean towards the pandemic and during that time, because that's when more people began to lean towards virtual assistance. They're at home. We can't leave, we can't go anywhere. So how do we reach our doctors? How do we reach our therapists? So the virtual world became more prominent, which is exactly what I think has jump started the virtual therapy, the virtual doctors, because now you even have doctor visits there, virtually. So there's a lot of avenues that was open during the pandemic. And even after the pandemic, they kind of just, solidified. They became more prevalent. And we secured the virtual world, which I'm happy for, because like I said, a lot of my clients are virtual.
Yeah, amazing. I didn't know
Mhm.
there was texting therapy.
Yes, there is texting therapy. It is very popular again amongst the younger generations. However, I also found an increase in my elderly clients who are maybe in their 70s and 80s who have joined therapy and are not really comfortable with the virtual world. Maybe they're not, tech savvy. So they text as well. As long as
Mm,
you get to the therapist, I'm open to whatever method you choose to use. Just come. Just come.
yeah,
Yes.
amazing. It makes sense though. When it comes to anxiety and burnout, and I do know both very well, as single parent, we experience anxiety and burnout very easily simply because you're doing it all by yourself. But it seems to be like an all-time high. Like people, even like now, I'm fully aware of my surroundings and I read people as well. And when I go places, I'm like, okay, she's stressed. I go to a restaurant, I'm like, okay, she's doing everything all by herself. She's burnt out. You know, why do you think so many people are struggling right now when it comes to anxiety and burnout?
I think because they're not recognizing their own bodies, they're not paying attention to what their own experiences are. Our bodies and minds tell us when we're getting ready to be in a stressful situation before we reach that situation, and we're not paying
Mhm.
attention. We're so busy. We're busy physically and we're busy mentally. We don't take the time to simply pay attention. Our bodies let us know what's going on before it happens. So we may, become jittery. We may be easily irritated. We may begin to drop things or forget things. We may get headaches. We may lose our appetite, or we may find ourselves eating more. We don't pay attention to those things. These
Mhm.
are the things that's leading up to letting us know, hey, something's going on. Our bodies and our minds are signaling to us something's going on. You begin to feel that stress. You begin to feel that anxiety. Now you're beginning to feel a lot of pressure, short of breath. Again, migraines, because we're not stopping to simply pay attention to ourselves. We're just not paying attention to ourselves. Imagine if when you begin to feel those triggers, those symptoms, you're like, hey, I'm feeling a little off today. I don't have an appetite. I didn't sleep well. Something's going on. Let me figure out what's going on with me. And if I need to reach out to my doctor or to my therapist to see, if something's happening with me that I need to be concerned about. To answer your question, we simply aren't paying attention to ourselves because our body is talking. Our soul and our spirits are coming through our bodies to let us know that something's off. And if we
Mhm.
simply acted as soon as we felt those things happening, we could address a lot more, a lot sooner to prevent it from becoming something that we are not able to address. Now we have to go to the doctor. Now we may have to get medication because we didn't
Mhm.
pay attention to those triggers earlier on.
Makes so much sense. So now we're talking on anxiety and burnout. Is there, when it comes to mental health, are there tools or practice that you wish the entire world could use to implement today? And what would those tools or practice be and why?
Yeah. I think one of the most important tools would be self-care. Definitely would be self-care. A lot of people either are not aware of self-care or they do not pay as much attention to their self-care. Self-care is important because it is, again, mental health is mental, emotional, and physical. So if you're giving yourself the self-care, that way you're able to pour into yourself, you're able to rebuild your own energies, you're able to give yourself mental clarity. Self-care could look like journaling,
Mm-hmm.
talking to others, um, eating, make sure you're eating right, drinking water, making sure that you're sleeping well. All of these things could be self-care. A lot of individuals, for some reason, when I mention self-care, one of the first things, especially us women, one of the first things we think about is, oh, I gotta get my nails and my hair done. While
Mm-hmm.
that is a form of self-care, that is not self-care. It is an activity that's a part of self-care. In self-care, you want to try to challenge yourself to do something different at least once a week. That's all I initially ask. Once a week, at least 30 minutes to an hour to give just to yourself to provide that self care. That could be taking an extra nap, taking a hot shower, watching a movie that you enjoy. Simply, as I mentioned earlier, finding something that makes your heart smile. So you take the time to stop and give yourself some self care. You will be amazed at how energized you feel and prepared to conquer the world the next day. It may not solve any of your problems. Those emails will still be there when you wake up the next morning, but it energizes you to give yourself some self care. Self care is a very strong tool, and it would be really, important for more people to take that more seriously in their lives because all it's doing is allowing you to care for yourself. And when you care for yourself, you can definitely do more for others. So self-care is a very profound tool.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because we're so programmed. Like me, for 2, 3 years straight, it's just work home, work home, work home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I realized, I'm like, I start
Yeah.
taking breaks,
Yes.
so
Mm-hmm.
taking breaks at work, taking breaks from work, taking breaks from home,
Yeah.
just simply taking a 5, 10 minute walk, it helps. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm also glad you mentioned the whole definition of self-care. I don't go get my hair or nails done because I do it myself. I'm more into like massages and vacations.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
But those are also wonderful forms of self-care. The key word is self-care, caring for yourself and
yeah,
making yourself give time. I would love to see individuals be able to do it daily, but I know I'm asking a lot, because life is
yeah.
busy. So I do ask that at least give yourself, like I said, an hour a week. And whatever that self-care may look like for you, there's, individuals who are concerned about costs, or I have to go somewhere, or maybe have to leave the country or leave the state. That's not the only forms of self-care.
Yeah.
Self-care is a very powerful coping skill, and it can be whatever it is, again, that makes your heart smile in that moment. You could simply sit outside and read a book, for an
Yeah.
hour. It is
Mhm.
just about you taking care of your mind for a moment, slowing your mind down, organizing your thoughts, maybe journaling. Just clear yourself for a moment and just pour into yourself for that short period of time. You'd be very surprised at how much more energy and how much more positive your spirit begins to feel.
Yeah, I think I think the most healing form of self-care for me, and which is the cheapest, is literally like walking through my front door barefoot, walking in the grass and taking in the sun.
Yes.
And then I have a swing on my front patio, so I just sit there. I get
Hmm.
some kind of sun and I'm just swinging, just
Yes.
feeling free, just not thinking about anything. It's the
That's
cheapest and the
exactly.
best. Yeah.
And it's very beneficial because you're getting nature, you're getting the
Yeah.
sunlight, you're getting all of that, and you're able to just rest and relax and enjoy your swing. That is a perfect example. Costs nothing,
Yeah.
and it is a very powerful tool.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
that what they call grounding.
Yes, grounding yourself. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
another coping skill.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How can people balance ambition with mental being without feeling guilty for slowing down? Because, like me, like my mom says, you're going like a million miles per hour. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I was forced to slow down because I think God and your body has a way of putting you in timeout.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you balance the ambition with mental health without feeling guilty? Because it was
Yeah.
hard for me. It's like when I took a break, it was like, okay, you have this to do, that to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of people do. They take breaks, they take time off, they take, PTO, they go on vacations, but then they find busy work to do in between this break. So you're supposed to be resting or relaxing or enjoying your time off, but then you find this busy work to do just because you're used to doing and going, which completely defeats the purpose of you taking time off,
Mhm.
right? Um, we touched on it earlier in today's conversation, simply writing things down, whatever your motivations are, whatever your agenda is, schedule time for you in there as well. So I've, explained to my clients, just like we make an appointment to go to the doctor, just like we went make an appointment, to go to the dentist, we make an appointment to go get our hairs and nails done. We make an appointment for several different other areas of our lives. Make an appointment for yourself. Put yourself on the calendar. Use
Mhm.
your alarm clock to remind yourself to sit down and be motivated in doing the things you need to do for you. So, whatever your journey is, whatever you are trying to do for your career, for your personal life, for whatever goals that you have, you still have to schedule that time in for yourself to make sure those things happen. Oftentimes, we overfill our own plates.
Mhm.
We already know we cannot complete those things that we have on, but we can't resist just, I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do it later. And we all know
Mhm.
later never really comes because we have now overflowed and overfilled our plates. And now we are stressed and depressed and overwhelmed because we have put too much on our own plates. If you
Mhm.
schedule these things, for example, give yourself 5 tasks to do per day. You don't have to do everything in one day. 5 tasks
Mhm.
to do per day, and then complete only those 5 tasks. After you're done with those 5 tasks, stop. Stop and enjoy the remainder of your day. The next day, there's 5 more tasks. So it's not in the mindset of everything needs to be done right now at once. That's a mindset that we tell ourselves, and it's an unhealthy one because it causes you to rush, stress, overwhelm, and feel like you're not getting things accomplished. Write them down, schedule time for you. You will still meet those goals that you have, but you can only meet them when they're supposed to be met. So everything is not going to happen immediately. Take your time with you. Take your time with you, schedule time with you, put yourself on your own appointment schedule so that you can make sure that you meet that need and whatever goal and ambition you have will still be met. It'll just be met in a more organized format,
A healthy format.
a healthier format. Yes, exactly.
What's one unpopular opinion you have about mental health that might surprise people?
You have to do the work. You have to do the work. Oftentimes, clients go to therapists with their situations and they kind of want to tell the therapist what's going on. And they feel like that's it. Once I've vented and I've said what's going on, now my therapy is over. I've seen my therapist. But that's a misconception. What happens when you go to therapy is you share, you talk about what's going on, you release whatever issues you may have. That's a
Mhm.
huge part of the beginning of your therapy. It's very, very effective to release all of that information to your therapist, to allow your therapist to prioritize how we're going to adjust what's going on with you, provide coping skills, provide therapeutic tools. However, if you hear me, provide the coping skills. The therapist is going to provide you the coping skills. The therapist is going to provide you the therapeutic tools. Then you have to do the work. The
Mhm.
misconception is that the therapist is going to do all the work. The
Mhm.
misconception is once I tell the therapist, then everything is going to be fixed. You know, Oftentimes, that is not the case, very much oftentimes, because the therapist is then going to give you the tools that you need based on what you've shared. Now you've got to do the work when the therapy session is over. You've got to journal. You've got to remember to work out. You've got to remember to either take your medication if you have it or not. You've got to remember to make your therapist appointments and attend them as well. You've got to remember to do your self care. You've got to put in the work. And that's a misconception that I've seen with a lot of clients is once the work begins in which they are expected to turn in the homework assignments, they are expected to read what you wrote in your journal for the last week or so. That's when they kind of fall back a little bit from therapy because then they're like, I got to do this work. It's up to me now. My happiness and journey is up to me. I thought you were going to fix all this for me. And that's the misconception that I see in several clients, in which they did not realize that, okay, now it really is on you to what your destiny is about to look like based on the work that you're about to do, that your therapy has suggested that you do.
Amazing. Nobody was expecting that. If I gave you a microphone right now that you could reach every single person in the world for 60 seconds, what would you say?
Don't be maladaptive. And what is that you say? It would just make my heart happy if more of the world understood what maladaptive meant. Um, Maladaptive is when we do something in the moment that feels good to us in the moment, but it's a bad idea for our lifetime journey. So in the moment, someone cut me off in traffic, and in the moment, it felt really good to stop my car and gesture and curse them out and say a lot of things and throw something at them. But now I've been arrested, and this is going to be affecting my life. But in the moment, it felt good to get that off of my chest, because how dare they cut me off? Maladaptive is when we do something that feels good temporarily, but it's not good for us long term. And I would shout that out to everyone, because if we could stop ourselves in that moment, we could change a lot of what we put ourselves through in the future. So maladaptive, I would just get on the microphone and sing the word maladaptive, learn what it means and how not to be maladaptive.
Amazing. Wasn't expecting that. What's something that you've learned about human nature through therapy that you wish more people would understand?
That everybody has it. Everybody is dealing with mental health. Everybody is dealing with some sort of mental health disorder. A lot of people don't understand that mental health is anxiety. Mental health is stress. Mental health
Mm-hmm.
is not just some huge, issue that someone may be dealing with that is physically visible. That's not what
Mm-hmm.
mental health is. If more realize that, we all have a form of mental health. I myself have, you know, um, bouts of anxiety as a therapist, which a lot of people are surprised. Like, you're a therapist, you should know better, right? You know all things. Anxiety is because I lay down at night, and when the world stops and it's quiet, I'm trying to fix all of my clients' problems in my head. That's anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to recognize, or I would love more people to recognize, that even those small things, those little areas that you're dealing with in your life, those are a form of mental health. Seek some help for those things. Don't try to, kind of push through. A lot of people think I just push through. Oh, it's just, a moment that I'm having. It's okay. I'm just gonna, push through. It'll be fine. No, it's not gonna be fine. You need to talk to someone about those things. I think that it's important for more people to realize how huge the umbrella of mental health is. And once
Mm-hmm.
you realize that, hey, I have to accept these, areas that I'm dealing with. I have to accept that these triggers or these symptoms that I have are related to a form of mental health. And that's okay. That's okay. Once you go into the space of acceptance, then you can do something about it. Then you can find that help. Then you can realize you're not alone. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay for you to be able to say, hey, this is happening. This is going on with me. I don't understand what it means, but I know that this is what's happening. Oh, when you have anxiety, let's talk about that. Let's get some
Mm-hmm.
tools on how to deal with that. So everyone has a form of mental health. You just haven't
Yeah,
realized what it is yet. You don't know what to do with it yet. You don't know that there's help for it yet unless you ask.
that's so true. I always say everybody's going through something, and
Absolutely.
mental health it doesn't have a definite look. And
This is the face of mental health. This is the face of
yeah,
mental health. But if you walk around, people are, yeah, I can tell that's going on. I can tell. No, we can't. This is the face of mental
yeah.
health. This is what we look like every day. Mental health looks like us every day. But because, again, we assume that we're the only ones going through these things, then we get
Mhm.
lost. We get lost into our own situations, emotions, and try to push through. But no, this is what mental health looks like. This is the face of mental health. And I will proudly share, because I'm hoping my experience, I'm very transparent. I'm a very transparent therapist. And I always hope that my experiences can help the next person to become more self-aware of what mental health
Mhm.
looks like. And again, that it's okay.
Yeah. So, and I think people are stuck with the mindset of mental health is severe trauma, like being raped or going into the army,
Yes.
seeing people
Hmm.
die. Like it's
Hmm.
literally burnout.
Hmm.
It's some minor stuff that can add up to major things.
Absolutely.
So I'm
That is
glad you
absolutely
broke that
correct.
down.
You're welcome.
Yeah, what's one of the hardest lessons you've learned about yourself?
I want to help. Of course, I want to help everyone. But before I understood the importance of boundaries, I simply wanted to be a part of all conversations because I thought I'm there to help. I have a solution. I had to learn to kind of be quiet and just simply listen and observe. Probably one of the strongest things I've learned in my lifetime is simply, observing and listening and hearing and taking in. All silent moments don't have to be filled with something. And that's something that I'm the type that if it's too quiet, I feel like I have to say something. But that's not the case. And what I learned of myself is that I can't help everyone. So it's not always necessary for me to always jump in. Oftentimes, people will learn and find their own solutions without my intervention whatsoever, because that's how people, learn and grow. If I'm always there to provide all the answers, that may prevent that person from having any self discovery. Because I always feel I have to interject what's going on and what's happening, give these ideas. So maybe about halfway through my education, that was one of the areas that I had to practice, which was you don't have to be a part of every conversation and you don't have to help everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing. If therapy wasn't an option,
Hmm.
so I have something I want to share after, but I want to hear
Okay.
your response first. If
Uh-huh.
therapy wasn't an option, what would be the next best thing to help people to heal?
Okay, definitely. I think the next best thing without therapy, because I'm always going to promote therapy. However, I think the next best thing is whatever your higher power is, spirituality, definitely. And when I say spirituality, I'm not connecting that with, say, religion, um, because religion, spirituality, and therapy are really three different worlds. And you have to be mindful because you don't want to offend any religion, you don't want to offend a spirituality, and you don't want to offend the science of therapy. I think without therapy, you must lean onto something. We have to lean onto something. We cannot figure these things out on our own. And again, we don't want to just push through. So without therapy, I definitely would suggest a promotion of spirituality, whatever it is that you believe in, embrace that. If you're a tree hugger, go out there and embrace the universe, embrace the outside, embrace nature. Do what makes, again, your heart smile. It may not be therapy. Therapy is not for everyone. Religion is not for everyone. Spirituality is not for everyone. So I say if there were no therapy, lean onto your next higher power. Again, that may be religion, that may be church, that may be, going into, Bibles and scriptures. That's perfect for you if that's what's feeding your spirit, or spirituality, but lean onto something that's more powerful than you.
Amazing. So yeah, so my response is very similar. So, I've told you I've tried the traditional therapy and you
Hmm.
sound like an amazing therapist, but unfortunately she's my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
So, it wouldn't work with us. But for me, it's really what really and truly has been helping me because traditional therapy never worked for me because I had a horrible therapist, is just praying. And I mean, not just praying, but more like having conversations with my supreme being
Hmm.
and just talking like I'm unclear on this. It's not just if I need help, it's almost like I'm talking to a therapist. And
Yeah.
my favorite time of having these conversations
Yeah.
is in the car,
Yes. Yes.
private moments,
Hmm.
and also just being in nature because that's what my
Hmm.
mind and my body and my soul is craving, just being in
Yes.
nature, taking long walks, and just decluttering my mind and calming my mind. It's
Hmm.
meditation and just being in tune with my core. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm a single mom. I've served my kids. I've done this for my business, this for my job. What does
Hmm.
Priscilla want?
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Hmm.
so just feeding my core.
There you
Amazing.
go. I like that. Feeding my core. That's wonderful. That's exactly
Yeah.
what that looks like. Absolutely.
When was the last time you felt truly vulnerable, and what did that moment teach you?
Right now, I have, the honor of being invited to a few podcasts. And although I love helping, being on the other end of the camera is vulnerable for me because again, I'm very transparent and I can tend to overshare because of my transparency. So I'd be very careful of, how much of me I share, how much of me I don't share. It does create this sense of openness naturally, especially when
Mhm.
talking to someone such as yourself, my friend. So it's almost like a girlfriend conversation, yet it's like, no, keep it together. This is business. We're talking, but it does create a vulnerability because no matter who you're talking to, especially again when you're on the other end, you're on the other scope and I'm not in the seat of the therapist, it's me
Mhm.
looking into me at my things that I may have put to the side because I'm always in therapy mode. My therapist
Mhm.
hat is always on, so having to take it off such as moments like this, it can be a little vulnerable, but I also have this outrageous amount of confidence, this insane self-esteem, so it does help me to be able to do, I can shine when I need to shine. But I would be lying to you if I tell you once I take off the therapist hat, that is my vulnerability because being a therapist is my superpower, you know. So without
Yeah.
that hat on, I'm like, oh, this is about me.
Mhm.
Okay. Now I see how my clients feel. So I use these moments to, be more sympathetic to my clients because I know what this side of the camera feels like. But yeah, I'm vulnerable right now.
Amazing. So now that we're at the end of the podcast interview, just two more things. Just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us and
Of
sharing,
course.
your expertise and your tools and practices, as well
Yes.
as at the end I asked my guest two questions. They're fun
Mhm.
questions.
Okay.
The first question is, if I was a genie and I gave you one wish to be anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Oh, that's easy. In the mountains, in a cabin. Oh, absolutely. That's yeah, girl, give me a hard one. That's easy. I
Amazing.
absolutely love the mountains. That is my go-to place. That is my ultimate goal. We said earlier on, what would make you happy? That's the magical question we ask our clients. What would make you happy? How do you get there? The mountains is my happy place. I
Mm.
visited a few years ago and I realized this is my people in the mountains. So a cabin in the mountains, doing virtual therapy, looking at the hills.
Oh, so we have to
That's
we
it.
have to get your house in the mountains. That's actually
Yes,
my goal.
absolutely. I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
So we have this famous mountain in Jamaica called the Blue Mountain. That's actually where
Oh,
the Jamaican coffee bean is taken from. And
oh
so I
wow.
love it there, not just for the mountain. I love it because the weather it's cool, and I
Mm.
also love the spring water.
Oh wow. Oh, I bet it's
Yeah,
beautiful. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So amazing. So if you go to Jamaica, you can try there. The next question is for me. So I've asked you a million questions, and I'm
Yes.
giving you the opportunity to ask me one question.
Oh wow. Am I asking as a friend or an interviewer?
Both.
Oh my. This is good. Okay. I would ask you, what are you missing? You're missing something. Something's not
Mhm.
there. What is it?
Like in general in life?
In your personality, you as a person, something's missing. You talk about the kids, you talk about the work, you talk about the podcast, but you don't talk about you. What's
Hmm.
on the inside of Priscilla? What's missing?
Well, that's a tough one. um, I would say honestly, and I've just recently experienced the ayahuasca ceremony,
Hmm.
and very recent, like couple days ago, and I'm still processing that. But one of the things I want to do in my life is to write a book on it's called the unfolding. So I think that nobody knows what's next. No, everybody's figuring out life, and that figuring out life is really because we don't know. It's a journey and it's continuously unfolding. So whatever I think is I am missing, I haven't discovered it yet. It's because I'm still processing, I'm still in
Okay.
the journey, and I'm still unfolding.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, segue into your book. I'm still unfolding. I caught that. Very good.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And we are friends to all of you who don't know. We have been friends for a few years now. So this interview was personal and intimate as well as professional and education wise. But I also know my friend. I also know my friend, and I know that there's a little light that's not on anymore. So what's missing is why I asked you that question.
I think I want to say though, now that I'm thinking more about it, it's just connection.
Okay.
Just yeah, because in Florida I had a lot of friends.
Hmm.
And I moved to Georgia and it was like,
Yeah.
this very
Yeah.
southern for me, and you guys were the only basically friends or people I knew.
Hmm.
So, I think that's missing. Like even
Yeah.
recently I'm taking myself out on dates, or not even just dates, but just doing stuff by myself, exercising by
Yeah.
myself. Instead of doing stuff with the kids, doing stuff by myself, like
I love
eating
that.
or breakfast or going for ice cream just for myself, working out by myself. And one of the things I told my friend the other day is I need human connection.
Yeah. I understand. Hmm.
I know a couple times I did reach
I
out to you. I'm like,
understand.
let's go somewhere.
Yeah. And I think that, it's good that you recognize that because oftentimes, again, we just push through. We just push
Yeah.
through. And socializing is so important. Believe it or not, am an introvert. Believe it or not, a therapist as an introvert, right? Whole nother story. However, I am very comfortable alone, quiet,
So,
extremely comfortable. I can go an entire weekend without speaking one word. And I'm okay with that. But I realize again, as human nature, we need people.
mhm.
We need those connections, even if it's only for a moment every few months. We need those connections. We need those social connections, and we need to socialize. So I'm glad that you recognize that. And again, we've always had the type of friendship that we could not talk for a year or 2 years, and we call each other, and we're there for each other, and the
Yeah.
connection is there. And that's the type of connections we want to look for. You don't just want any kind of connection.
Yeah.
You want a true, healthy friend type of connection that you can turn
Mhm.
to whenever you need to without feeling the guilt, the obligation,
Yeah.
the pressure, but just because we understand I need that connection. So definitely continue reaching out. Got to get that light back on in your eyes.
Yes. We need to make a date at least once every 3 months.
Yes,
Let's
I'm
start
okay with
there.
that. That's perfect time for me. Once every 3 months, I can handle that.
Let's start there. If it's even
Yeah.
ice cream or something.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Okay, well, we'll put that on our list. Remember, write things down. We'll write
Yes.
that on our list. I
Yes.
love it. I'm so happy
But
that you invited me here. I really thank you for this. This has been exciting. I'm so proud of you. I'm so
yeah.
proud of you.
Thank
And I'm
you.
sending positive energies to you and your YouTube channel. This is great.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again for doing this.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.